No makeup, no filter, dose of disruption, something that came to my mind. It's actually a video that I meant to make at the beginning of the pandemic that I never did make because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to make a video or whether I wanted to write an essay or what I wanted to do with the emotions that were coming up. So I just decided to make a video today because I found myself processing these same thoughts again. So, at the top of the pandemic, that's not what I meant to say. At the top of lockdown in Florida, I had just gotten off of a 7-day cruise. Had gone, to several different South American and the Mexican part of the Caribbean, several different places like that. And my children had flown down to Tennessee and they had just flown back, and I had picked them up from the airport, and I had just gotten off of this cruise, and I was feeling like I was having some sort of respiratory issues, and they were sounding pretty congested too because they had been away from me, and many times when they go with relatives, they eat a lot of dairy and things that we don't eat at home. And so a lot of times when they go with relatives, they come back congested. But anyway, it was the top of lockdown and everything in the news and on social media was talking about, the virus. And so I was absolutely terrified. At that point, I had just moved to Florida. I think I had been here for a year. And we don't really know anybody down here. We don't really have close family down here. And so it had been an adjustment to, I'm so glad you're enjoying the book. Thank you. It had been an adjustment to figure out where to put them in school. You know what? Actually, one of my best friends from elementary school and high school just happened to be living in this same part of Florida. So I always give praise and honor to her because her daughter was in a charter school that was mostly black children, and she suggested it for my kids. And she and I wound up being able to be resources for each other. But outside of her, I didn't know anybody here, so we were still in the process of adjusting. It had been a bit of a process to find a school, and you know how it goes when you move. And now there was this pandemic. And so I remember when I first realized that we were going on lockdown. And I remember when I first realized we were going to have to mask. And at that point, they were still recommending that you use gloves. And they were making the information that I was getting was making it seem as if just going outside, like on your own porch, could expose you. So it was a very frightening time. And I had these two soon to be teenagers. I don't think either one of them were teenagers yet at the time that happened. And so it was myself. I had my two youngest who were soon to be teenagers. And then, of course, I had my four adult children in Tennessee at that time. I may have already had one in Georgia as well. And working various jobs, they all work in various industries. And my grandson, and I had no idea what to do. But I was sitting in a state of complete terror. Everything that I was getting, all the information I was getting was just terrifying. And so I'm terrified for myself. I'm terrified for my children because I'm who they have. So if anything happens to me, then what in the world is going to happen to them? Not just the ones who are still minors, but the adult children too. And there was nothing to do but sit in the terror. That's all that there was to do, was to sit in the terror. And as I sat there terrified, I began to talk to my ancestral mothers. And my mother,